Hey guys, hope you all have been well. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to finally rank my eyeshadow palettes that are newer. So basically the start of 2021 leading into 2022, I have 15 eyeshadows, which is not too bad. But let's stop the blabber and get into ranking these 15 palettes. At the bottom of the list, unfortunately, and it's weird because it's the eyeshadow palette I decided to use for this look, I had to dabble into number 14 as well. This might be an attempt at redemption for these palettes, but number 15 and 14 is what I used to create this eyeshadow look. So starting out, we have the Viseart Petite Fours in Lilas. This is the, I believe you would consider it like the silver gray, and the reason it's lower on the list is because I can't really use this by itself, number one, and number two, I'm generally not a cool tone eyeshadow lover, especially when it comes to grays. So it has to take me some sort of like creativity and want to apply eyeshadows like this. This one, though I don't regret it, especially like the shimmers on the eyelids, it's beautiful, but in comparison to everything else, it's like definitely on the bottom of the list. So at number 14, we have the Wayne Goss Luxury Eye Palette in Pearl. I actually feel kind of bad to be putting this where it is, and the reason is because I love Wayne Goss. He has been one of my makeup staples since the very beginning of YouTube. But hear me out, this palette is not horrible. It's a beautiful palette. I can see myself using this all the time. The reason it's at number 14 is because I find myself forgetting that I have it. And for that to be the case, that kind of has to speak a little bit about how I feel for the palette in comparison to everything else. But on its own, this palette is beautiful. The shimmer down here is like a eyeshadow topper, and it's gorgeous on the lids. I love the two mattes. This is a great everyday shade for me. But because I forget that I have it, and when I do remember it, I don't necessarily feel a pull to take it out, then that should say something about it. And so this is at number 14. Moving right along to number 13, we have another Viseart Petite Fours. This is in Framboise. I still have yet to find someone who can tell me if I'm saying that correctly, but this is the more pink quad. I love the looks that I come up with since using this palette, but I put it a little bit further down on the list because I feel like it's missing a deeper shade. I normally have a deeper outer corner or crease shade, and I feel like this doesn't offer enough. I feel like if this was a deeper shade, whether it was like a deep chocolate or an aubergine shade, I think this would have been a lot higher than where it is. But because the depth stops at medium, I feel like it's lacking a little bit. But these pinks, guys, are gorgeous. I love the Viseart formula. I've said time and time again, it is my greatest find of 2021. I just think there's a little bit of a tweak that needs to be made for this particular quad. 15, 14, 13, so this will be 12. This is the Viseart. I feel bad because my Viseart seem to be, like a lot of them seem to be a little bit lower. And it has nothing to do with formulation, because if I'm basing this on formulation, Viseart will all be at the top. Here we have the Viseart Paris Etoile. What I'm trying to say is the holiday palette from 2021, and this is a very deep, very starry night kind of palette, and I'm digging it, man. Obviously I picked it up and I felt very inspired, which is rare for me to feel that way for a blue palette, but it is ranking a little bit lower because of how frequently I know I would use this on a regular basis. A palette like this would require me to feel a little bit more daring, want to be a little bit more bold. And so even though the color story is absolutely stunning, I know myself and I know my makeup preferences, and this is not something I'm going to want to pull out all the time. Needless to say though, it is gorgeous. It is absolutely stunning, and the qualities, despite them being blues and purples, really good. I guess I should have said this in my intro, but none of these palettes are bad. I wouldn't keep a palette if I didn't like it. So these are staying in my collection. I love them. This just happens to be the ranking that they're in for right now. Coming in at number 11, we have the third and final Viseart Petite Fours, and this is in Praline. I love this eyeshadow. If I could put my finger on what types of shades I would want for the rest of my life, this will probably be where the color story would come in. If I could change this shade into something deeper, like a really rich chocolate, this could have easily bumped up 5 palettes. I'm not even joking. Anything in the bronze family, bronze brown, that is where my heart lays. And so seeing this, I knew I had to get my hands on it, but I would just change that one shade. I think that's something pretty common with all of these quads. They're lacking a deeper shade option. And so I would change this one into a very rich chocolate. It would have been perfect. Moving on to number 10, we have the Viseart Cashmere palette. This one here. For right now, this is where it is, but I will be transparent that I haven't used every single shade in this palette just yet. So this is what the palette looks like, and hear me out. I love every shade in here except these two. I'm medium skin tone. I don't need to set my eyes with an eyeshadow. I just do it with my powder. So any light creamy eyeshadow, I'm just not into it. I do need to dabble in it a little bit more. There was one time where I didn't end up liking the way that my eyeshadow looked, but I think that was more my fault than anything. And now that I'm looking at it, I think I might not be drawn to it as much as another Eitandu palette that I have, because there are cool tones in here. It's very rare that you're ever going to see me excited for a cool tone palette, and so maybe that's what it is. I can see at least 3 in here, and although they're beautiful, I'm much more drawn to the bronze, the brown, and the purples in here. And so looking at that, it's like 5 of the shades here are either I don't want it or it just doesn't pull me in. But who knows, maybe with more use this could rank a little bit higher in a future video. By the way, only my recent palettes have I kept these cardboard packaging, but later on when I get to the other ones, I'll show you what I eventually do, because these cardboards, having to open them up time and time again, is a pain in the butt. At number 9, we have Miss Natasha Denona. This is the retro palette. I placed it at number 9 because although I do love me some purples and some pinks, I also love me some browns. Browns and basics, that's definitely me, and will always surpass any other eyeshadow color in the eyeshadow sphere. So as much fun as this is and as happy as I am with the purchase, I just don't have my security blanket of the browns in here. I will say this though, thank you Natasha Denona. I think she does a great job at this, of doing lights, mediums, and deeps, and in fair amounts. This has a great array of color selections between the pinks and the purples, but also a lot of great depth options as well. So if it had browns, it'll probably be higher, but that's just me being nitpicky. I just like, I'm basic. What can I say? Okay, so moving on to number 8, we have a Viseart palette. Yes, we have one a little bit more bumped up than the other, and this is the Spritz Edit palette. So remember how I said I got rid of cardboards? This is what I do to it. I cut out the box with the names on it and I just tape it to my palette. All right, so every time I look at this palette, I just get so excited. So here's an example of having like color with browns. My only gripe with this palette is that there's not enough dark browns to kind of play with these other more warmer shades. I think if it had just at least one more dark color, it would have been so perfect. I use this brown purple shimmer down here in the crease sometimes, but I feel like if I just had just one more dark shade, like the pink has this deep option, I feel like there's nothing to complement this one up here. Other than that though, this is perfect. Like, I love looking at this palette. This palette makes me so happy. However, at number 7, I will say that I get much more use out of this one here, which is the ABH Norvina palette. So shocking that I still have an ABH palette. I got rid of Soft Glam. I felt like I was kind of over the Natasha Denona formula, and I think that's still the case. I don't think this is my favorite formulation, but good God, is the color selection, especially the shimmers in this palette, chef's kiss. It's gorgeous. This entire row just makes my heart so happy. I have not been disappointed with any of the looks I've done using this palette. Why was I feeling it necessary to have Modern Renaissance and Soft Glam? Like, this is where it's at. Number 7, Norvina. I think some of you might be shocked, but oh hell no. Sorry guys, I think I almost had a casualty. Natasha Denona's pissed off at me. At number 6, I have the Biba palette. This shade Tar was starting to crack, but I pressed it down and it's like a creamy formula, so I think I'm okay. I know it might sound a little contradictory saying like I love browns and browns are everything to me, and then what you're gonna see is that the palette that's a little bit higher up are not browns. This palette is gorgeous. It is a basic girl's dream, but I feel as if there should have been better shimmers in here. None of these shimmers are horrible, but I definitely think they could have been better. Like some shimmers in that retro palette could have been in here. But let me point out once again that at this bottom row, these 4, they do nothing for me. I use these, but it's not like I get excited by them, and I don't use this at all. So as functional as this is, as dreamlike as this is, and I mean, I love quite a few shades in this palette. I feel like it's still lacking something and could do away with some others. We have the Viseart Mingset Étendue palette. So remember the Spritz palette, right? I was saying that it needed a deep brown. See that? That's what it needed. Look at these warm shades. Look at this bronze shade. I have pink, I have purple, I have all these browns. I really could care less about this. This could have easily been like a pretty lavender shimmer, but come on. Hello. This is such a me palette. It's perfect in every way possible. I think these 2 shades are a little too close to each other, not really tickling my fancy, but overall as a palette, this is what I'm talking about. Like I look at this and I say, yes, Annabelle, are you in there? It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. At number 4, this is such a shocker. I can't believe it, but I had to put it here. I had to. It is not only a mini palette, but it's Natasha Denona. This mini Zendo palette. I have one look that I do with this palette, and every time I do it, I see, I almost said about it where I didn't even think about it. I kid you not, I feel so beautiful. I feel so like sultry. It just makes me feel some type of way. I feel beautiful when I have this on. I feel like this is the look that someone with my skin tone is trying to achieve when you want to go for a Charlotte Tilbury look. That makes absolutely no sense, but Charlotte Tilbury generally has this look. You attach it to her name. That's who I feel like I'm channeling when I'm using this. I'm getting that true Charlotte Tilbury look with Natasha Denona. Contradictory, I know. Speaking of Miss Charlotte Tilbury, we have number 3. I hate these plastic things. ASMR. That last bit sounded really funny. Here is the palette, number 3. These Smoky Eyes Are Forever from Miss Charlotte Tilbury. I feel like this is her first palette in the past 3 years, or at least the past 3 of these, where she has tried to do something a little bit different with her shimmers. Generally her shimmers are high impact, high shine, but you don't really get that like very rich topper formula, but you do get it in this palette, and it just bumps everything up. I mean, I even like the green look that I do with this palette. It's so easy to use. It makes so much sense. You can go with a structure that's already placed for you, but you can also be creative. I've never been disappointed with these palettes, and for $75 for more than 4 shades, it is worth it. I'm just gonna say it flat out. Number 2 and number 1 both go to Pat McGrath, but at number 2, I have the Utopian Dream. Annabelle, it's not a brown palette. No, it's not. But calculating everything and what goes into ranking these palettes, I cannot lie, I was very excited about this palette. If I took just alone these 8 shades here and replaced this with another brown shade, I would have been mind blown. It's gonna be purples, it's gonna be pinks, it's gonna be browns, and it's everything that I love. Then you add these 2 down here, these bad boys, special shades. Come on. I will say don't favor this over Divine Rose 2. don't kill me. But I can't deny that not only is the quality great, the color selection is great, and it's freaking Pat McGrath. I've never been disappointed by her, and I just hate that it's freaking expensive, but thank you, Pat McGrath, for always giving discounts. And I'm pretty sure if you watch me for any given amount of time, you probably know what number 1 is. Yeah. Oftentimes you look at it and go, what the hell? That's like a vomit of colors. And then you start playing with it and it just makes sense. I am intimidated by color. I'm not afraid to admit that, but I feel so inspired by her color selections. And on top of that, I paid less for more shades. I have enough Pat McGrath Mothership palette to last me enough Astral and Blitz shades, her special shades. But I just feel so inspired by looking at this palette. It's so weird because there's just so much going on here. There's enough neutrals in here for me to just be simple and very basic with my look, but I can also just go to town with it, you know? And I think that's how makeup should make you feel. It should make you feel comfortable, but also inspired. And I feel like I really get that with the Celestial Odyssey. So that is at number 1. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. It might be a long one. I felt like I was rambling too much and my throat is starting to get real dry. But there you have it. Those are my rankings for my recent palette. Basically from last year to this year, everything that I've had in between. If you guys like this makeup look, I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but for everything else on my face, you can check me out on Instagram. It'll be the first link in the description box down below. That is where I post a photo of all of my makeup looks along with all the products in the caption. I've also been making it a habit to link all of the products down below. Just remember they're magic links and are affiliated, so I do make a small commission every time you make a purchase, and please know that I greatly appreciate it. Till the next video, I hope you all are doing well, taking great care of yourselves. I will see you all next time. Bye guys.